This is Support is Sexy, episode 311, with Arielle Loren, CEO of the Arielle Loren Agency. Welcome to Support is Sexy. I'm your host, Elayne Fluker, entrepreneur, author, and founder of Chic Rebellion Media. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, I interview inspiring women entrepreneurs who share their wins and their lessons to help you take your business and your life to the next level and create something sexy. Here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Support is Sexy. I'm excited to have you here. It just would not be the same without you. And look, if you are in a situation where you are thinking about making some big, bold moves in your business or in your personal life, but you believe you might need a little bit support coming up with a plan, I want you to go to makebravedecisions.com right now to sign up for my free course on how to make brave decisions. Now, I'm so excited about this episode today. We have Arielle Loren, who is the CEO of the Arielle Loren Agency. And Arielle does marketing and consulting for her clients, but she does so much more. And what I love about our conversation is she picked up on something, okay, being selfish. It was something that I needed to hear, but I'm sure you needed to hear it too. Something that she reminds us of that a lot of us either don't think about or forget about as women entrepreneurs. And it has to do with ourselves, our wellness, and some other very important things. So what you hear about from Arielle in this episode is the value of setting the intention, speaking your dreams into existence, and taking inspired action. Also, how to connect with your ideal clients. Arielle's unexpected top tips for how to grow your business. And also why you must never forget about self, sex, and spirit, no matter how busy you think you are. So I know you're going to enjoy this episode full of great, juicy advice and inspiration. So without further ado, Arielle Loren. So Arielle, thank you so much for joining us for an episode of Support is Sexy. I'm excited to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Of course. Now, our first question, when did you first fall in love with entrepreneurship?
So honestly, I can't even say that it's so much that I fell in love with entrepreneurship as much as it is that I felt like I didn't have a choice. And so literally when I had graduated from college, I began working for a startup in marketing. And as I started working for the startup, I mean, it was probably every, millennial's kind of dream, honestly. There's ping pong tables and, an open workspace, and you can dress down, and, there's beer in the fridge, and, all of those things that, I think define kind of what the modern, fun, quote unquote, workplace is today. Mm-hmm. But for me personally, even being in that environment, which is often equated to having more freedom than like a corporate environment, I still wasn't fulfilled. I still wasn't happy. And so what I realized was that I needed something that was still more flexible. I didn't want to always feel like I was being boxed in to a particular location or place just to be able to do what I was passionate about. And so I made a really bold decision. I stayed at that job for about a year, and then I moved to Brazil, not knowing how to speak any Portuguese or really never really been to the country. But I just felt really drawn to go there spiritually. And I said to myself that I was going to figure out how to create this life for myself where I could travel and still do what I was passionate about in business and creatively. And so that's how my journey began.
Wow. So now, was this a tech startup? Once you say ping pong tables, I think tech or some creative agency. Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Okay. Now, what were you doing there? Was it marketing?
Yes, marketing.
Okay. So what was it, though, that brought you to the point that you said, well, one, I'm leaving, and then I'm leaving and going to Brazil? Was it just the freedom, or was it burnout, or what was the situation like when you left?
It was a combination of both. So it was definitely starting to get to the point of burnout. I was probably working anywhere from 50 to 60 hours a week. Mm-hmm. But really it was the freedom that was the biggest deal for me. Because truthfully, right now I work more than 60 hours a week. Sometimes I work 80 hours a week. So working hard or having to work all the time, is something that just comes with the territory of being really excellent at what you do and high in demand. And so for me, that's just something that's been constant in my career. But having the freedom to be able to shape how you do that work, that is what I realized was a deal breaker for me. And so that's what I had to, figure out how to create and to fix for myself in my life.
That's so powerful. Thank you for sharing that, because I know sometimes people think about entrepreneurship as, I want freedom of my time, but they're thinking freedom to not have to work as hard. And that's not what that is. You definitely work it hard or harder than in your 9-to-5 job where you can walk away. At least in my experience and all the entrepreneurs I know, as you just mentioned, sometimes you end up working more, but you get to decide what you're working on, with whom you're working. A lot of different things come with that freedom that doesn't look like just having a day off when you want.
Exactly.
Yes. Now, where did you grow up, Arielle?
I actually grew up in New Jersey. So I grew up in a little town called Jackson. Well, I guess it's not so little, but it's right by Six Flags for all of
okay.
our listeners who are in New York City or in that kind of tri-state area. So I grew up there, kind of typical suburban town. Had, a solid public school education, and then headed to New York City for college to go to NYU.
What was a young Arielle like growing up in Jackson?
You know what? I think I was really just trying to discover myself like most kids. I was trying to figure out, like, who am I? Mm-hmm. What does it mean to be Arielle, both on a creative level, in terms of being a writer and, someone who was also, learning a bit of music here and there, and dabbling in sports a little bit and trying to figure out, health-wise, like how to be in optimal shape, and, what kind of friends did I want? What kind of experiences did I want to have? Who did I want to hang out with? Like, it was really, for me, childhood was just a big experiment. And I think that it definitely shaped a lot of who I ended up becoming today. And I will definitely give credit to my parents, especially for really pushing me academically, because it's that level of discipline that I built, especially going through high school when I was in a lot of, AP classes and honors courses, that really set the stage for my work ethic now as an adult.
Who would you say were some of your greatest influences at that time? Would you say your parents?
I would say my parents. I would even say some of my friends, my community. I'm one of those people that I don't think I've ever had one solid figure who was my influence. I think it changes depending on what it is that I need at any given time in my life. And so, even to this day, I honestly consume, wisdom and teachings from so many different teachers depending on what it is that I need. And so, I wouldn't say that I've ever had a one person or even three people that I look to constantly. It really just varies.
Now, after you went to NYU, did you go directly to Harvard after that?
I didn't. I actually traveled for a little bit. So after NYU, like I said, I was in New York City. I was working for the startup, and then I quit my job and I moved to Brazil. I was in Brazil
okay. I thought that was after Harvard. Okay, gotcha.
No. I moved to Brazil right after college. And you know what? Actually, college really set the stage for me to desire to even live internationally. I studied abroad in London, studied abroad in Spain as well when I was at NYU. And it really just opened my eyes to kind of the different lifestyles and experiences that, other people were having around the world. And so it planted that seed. And then, like I said, after kind of getting that first year of kind of work experience, I guess for real, in New York City at that startup, I just realized that I still wanted to travel and I still wanted to figure out a way to kind of continue to live that life on my own terms. And so, I moved to Brazil. And then after that, I was in the Dominican Republic for a little bit.
Wow.
And then eventually I moved to Miami, and, started kind of my U.S. adulthood life.
Started adulting again. Try it again.
Yeah. Now, and then I went to Harvard.
Now, how were you able to travel during that time? You mentioned you didn't know anybody, or you mentioned you didn't know the language. Actually, you didn't say you didn't know anybody in Brazil, but just for people listening who have that either fantasy or desire to do something similar as far as traveling, was it something that you saved up for while you were working at the startup, knowing that you were going to take this leap, or how did you go about doing that?
Oh God, no. I definitely didn't save. It was a very spirit led decision, which
Uh-huh.
can have its pros and cons. So I was literally sitting at my desk. I believe my supervisor had come to me and told me my responsibilities were going to be changing, and basically kind of the role that they had in mind for me, I wasn't really feeling it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just made a decision that evening that I was going to basically quit my job. I knew that I had my security deposit from my apartment and my last check, but I just figured that
You'll
you
figure it
know
out.
I'll figure it out.
Right.
Once that desire is planted, the universe responds and makes a way. And so I really walked out on faith, and I just started telling people that I was moving to Brazil. So everyone was all excited, like, oh my gosh, you're moving to Brazil. But it was really funny because I didn't have a plane ticket. I had no idea where I was staying. And like I said, I think in total I might have had like, $3,000, $4,000, to my name between the security deposit and the last check. And so what I realized was that setting the intention, speaking it into existence,
Yeah.
and having other people as well who obviously you can trust and who want you to be happy, kind of add that excitement and add that energy to what it is that you desire. All of a sudden, things just open. So, I had an aunt who said, you know what, I have a ton of frequent flyer miles. Like, I'll just give them to you. I'll fly you down to Brazil. I didn't have to worry about a plane ticket.
Mm-hmm.
I found a artist in residence place down in the section of Brazil. I actually traveled through Bahia and specifically started my journey in Salvador, which is the capital. And so, kind of got down there and then found out that I actually had some of my friends had some friends down there too. And so I began to meet some people and, the journey began. So I don't think that you have to have all of your pieces kind of lined up to be able to kind of make a move. But what I will say is that your level of faith and your level of patience and your level of like real trust has to be strong because I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it was this beautiful, smooth journey. There was a lot of financial strain and experiences that I had to go through just to even be able to kind of have the beautiful experience that I ended up having.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that, Arielle. Would you say that speaking it into existence, because I was thinking that before you even said it, but speaking it into existence, setting that intention and then having that faith has been something that has continued to guide you on your journey as you launched your agency and have done all these other things?
Absolutely. For me, with my agency, I work with some pretty powerful, amazing women entrepreneurs to really help them build and scale their businesses online. And I will say that I started, really envisioning myself as someone who owned an agency and had a team probably a couple of years ago. At first I've been working really as a private consultant. Even when I was in college, I was working in digital marketing. So I was digital before it was cool to be digital, and I was
Uh-huh.
learning how to market like before everyone wanted to be a social media manager, or community manager, or a digital strategist. And so I was very fortunate in that space to actually get into the field very early, which gave me a lot of credibility. But with that being said, making that transition from that 9 to 5 life to being a private consultant to now owning an agency where I have a team, that for me, was a process of really like having the vision, and as they say, like making it plain. So what does it look like, for me to be this, powerhouse consultant and own this amazing agency? What kind of clients do I want to work with? Who are my dream clients? Like, how do I connect with them? How do I position myself? And how do I really set myself, apart? And what it came down to for me was one, realizing that a lot of these kind of women entrepreneurs, big brands and personalities that you see are human. And so when I think sometimes when we're thinking about like, dream situations or jobs or, whatever the situation is career-wise, we think that a lot of these people or companies, et cetera, or are not reachable. And what I found in my career is that actually the world is very small.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about your energy and your vibration. After obviously you have the credibility and the track record where like your reputation is solid. But really it's just relating. People ask me, how do you get your clients? And I'm like, honestly, like I meet them and I connect with them, whether I'm like on vacation or at a conference or a mutual friend or client makes a referral. And it's really just that initial kind of connection and conversation that happens. It's not about selling, but really just about connecting with that person, hearing what it is that they're going through, what they're doing right now in their business and what they're going through right now in their life, and just seeing if there's synergy. And what I'll also add to that is to not rush it. And so there were clients that I connected with, at first, and we didn't even sign a contract until like a year and a half later. So you can't be in a situation where you're desperate for money or you're desperate for the contract, because people feel that. And so you have to position yourself financially, whether you have, side hustles until your contract flows are strong, where you don't need their business. Rather, you want to be in business with them because it's really a good fit.
Excellent. Would you say when you were visualizing your ideal client and going through all of those things that you were writing it down, or what was the way that you captured that? Was it something you were just thinking about or meditating on or writing down? What was your practice in doing that?
Well, some of it is writing it down, whether it's like writing affirmations or like kind of visualizing, with my pen and really writing out like what my ideal client is, or, how I want it to feel when we work together, or what we want to create, or what we want to manifest, how much money we want to make, like all of these things, how many people we want to serve. So some of it was writing it down. The other part is really just visualizing, sitting and meditating on it, and spiritually taking the time to tap into, God or the universe or whatever you want to call it. And then also tap in with that person. Many times I have conversations with my clients just through sitting in meditation, where I'm just spiritually connecting with them to really figure out what it is going on with them, and what it is that I need to do to be of highest service. And for me, I think that is what has kept my relationships with my clients so strong. And I think it's what kind of has made the difference in my career.
What would you say is the primary way that, well, first of all, your agency is 2 years old now?
Yes.
Okay. What would you say is the primary way that you and your team support your clients?
It's a combination of things. But I'd say the primary way that, we support is probably just on the level of, strategy and operations. And so one, my job in particular at the highest level is really to set a strategy for my clients to be able to expand, their revenue, their profits, like all of those things, but also to make sure that like their operations are like really streamlined. And so I don't do chaotic business. I don't like it. And so I'm really big on like organization and systems and putting the proper people and teams in place to make sure that there's a smooth customer service experience, to make sure that our launches are reaching the people that need to be reached, to make sure that, our websites and, our tech is like tight. And to make sure that as we're executing on the marketing strategies that we've put together, that we're also tweaking it along the way. I think sometimes people spend so much time putting together a plan, whether it's a marketing plan or a business plan or whatever it is, but then they go and they execute and they don't actually pay attention to what the results are. And so, in my mind, even in my clients' minds, we might have had a vision for what we wanted a campaign to look like, but if we're running tests, on specific websites or ads or whatever, and we're not seeing the return that we want to see, or if we're noticing that one particular strategy that we employed is doing better than the rest, we might redirect all of our resources to actually go after the one that's working the most effectively. And so always being in that experimental mode, I think is definitely something that I do and do with my clients.
That's great. Someone else I talked to who's in marketing, who was a guest on the show some time ago, Teju, she talked about tinkering, the importance of continue to tinker until you get it right with marketing. Like you said, looking
Absolutely.
at the numbers and being conscious of the analytics as opposed to, no, this is what we said we're going to do, and being rigid around it.
Yes.
Excellent. Now, what would you say then are your top tips or strategies for someone who needs to market their business? And especially for our audience is a combination of people who have already started their business, or who have side hustles, or who are in the early stages, idea stages, and figuring out how to market.
So I'm actually going to give you a more alternative kind of response to that, because there's so many things that I can say traditionally in terms of business tactics of, making sure your website is laid out properly, making sure your funnels are tight, making sure your customer relationship management system is tight, testing, observing your analytics. I could give tons of traditional business tips. But the truth of the matter is that business is not just a science. There's an art to it. And the artistic side of it comes from really being tapped in to your intuition and having a connection to a higher power. And so what I would say is that spend time like really getting grounded and deepening your relationship with the divine, however you define that. Because truthfully, what makes a strategist or a marketer or anyone, any business owner, the difference between good and great is intuition. And so I consider myself a great marketer and a great strategist. And that's because at the end of the day, if something is just not working, and I've tried, quote unquote, all of the different tactics that I can think of, if I just take a moment and sit down and meditate or sleep or, whatever it is that I need to do to connect to that higher power, often I wake up or I come out of the meditation with the answer in terms of what needs to be done. Specifically for me, I practice Kundalini yoga. And for me, that's how I connect, with the divine in kind of a more routine way. And in the beginning of the year, I did 90 days of a practice, which is called sadhana. And so sadhana is basically 2.5 hours of prayer, meditation, and yoga every morning from 4 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. And so for 90 days consecutively from January 1st, basically to April 1st, I woke up and I went and I meditated, I prayed, and I did yoga for 2.5 hours from 4 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. every morning. And the breakthroughs, the business guidance, the things that I was able to deliver to my clients, the breakthroughs I was able to have even in my own business was tremendous. But that wasn't just because, obviously I've gone to Harvard and I've prepared and I've studied digital and I know what I'm doing. It was because I took the time to connect to something that's bigger than myself that was really able to help me along the path of, being able to execute, and do business on a much higher level.
Now, what moved you to do that, to decide to make such a huge commitment to going through that practice, that 90 days? What was it before then that led you to do that?
It was right around New Year's where I was actually invited to a quote unquote conscious New Year's Eve party. And so I said to myself, I really want to start 2017 different. I don't want to just go in like another year. I don't want to just have, another, typical New Year's party. We toast, we drink, etc. And we just start the year. I want to go in and do something that's going to completely shift the paradigm of the realm that I've been operating in. Like, I want to completely reset and elevate to a new level. If I'm trying to take my business to this high, 7-figure, level, then I need to start doing something radically different. And so for me, I just went to the Conscious New Year's Eve celebration, and it was a Kundalini yoga community that was throwing it. And so literally at that celebration, they introduced me to what sadhana was. And they were like, so we do this practice and you should check it out. And we're going to do it right after, because it was a sleepover, a Conscious New Year's party sleepover. We're going to do it, tomorrow morning. And I'm like, okay, cool. And they're like, so there are many, you can either come for a day, or you can do kind of the different programs that we have, which is, 40 days is what we call to change a habit. And then 90 days is what we do to kind of confirm the habit. And then 120 days is where you get closer to kind of mastering the habit or being the habit. And, you can decide how many days you want to do, but, we would encourage you to consider, going for 40 days. So I went for 40 days. And then when I got to the 40-day mark, I said, I want to keep going and I'm going to go for 90 days. And so that's how it really started. It was kind of one step at a time, setting the intention, taking the first step, and then just allowing the path to unfold from there.
Wow. Now, you mentioned that, it helps you get clear about some things in your business. But how do you feel, since we're later in the year now, being September, how do you feel it sort of, or did it, I shouldn't assume it did it reshape sort of how your year went compared to years past, the way you started this year with that practice?
Absolutely. My discipline levels. I thought I was disciplined before. Mm-hmm. That's the joke. Like I was more disciplined than most people, but the level of discipline it requires to wake up every morning at 3:30 a.m., drive and go and practice yoga for 2.5 hours every day is insane. Like if you master that, you do that, the way that you work is going to completely change. One, I became a lot more energized. So people would think that if you're up at that time of morning, that you're going to come home and be exhausted. Nope. Came home, was energized, actually ended up being able to start my days much earlier. Obviously, with the level of yoga and work that I was doing spiritually, my diet and my palate started to change even more. And kind of just really through taking care of myself, taking care of my body and tapping into spirit on a deeper level. I just, like I said, I had heightened intuition and was able to make some really tremendous business calls and changes that really has definitely exploded my profits. And I'm definitely really grateful for it.
Now, self-care and body positivity seems to be very important in your work overall, obviously for you personally, but even through your work with your clients from what I see. So how would you say that you incorporate this into your work with clients?
Yeah, so originally, I actually used to own, I still own it, but we don't produce any more issues. But I used to own an erotic magazine called Corset. And so it's corsetmagazine.com for anyone who actually wants to go and view it. But basically, Corset is a magazine that attracted a lot of women who really wanted a safe space to talk about their journeys to sexual empowerment, their struggles, their successes, all of it. It was really kind of this sacred place for people to be able to share. And so being that I started that project right kind of before I went to Brazil and kind of building the magazine and building the readership while I was still in Brazil and after I had moved, even to the Dominican Republic, et cetera, it really kind of set the tone for my relationship with my body and my experience of womanhood and really kind of just being able to observe just how being tapped into your body, being tapped into your sexuality actually becomes an asset when it comes to, heightening intuition and experiencing pleasure in your business. And so for me, I've actually taken, a lot of that work and I've integrated it into a new workshop series that I'm doing called Driven. And Driven basically takes women entrepreneurs and CEOs through a process of exploring self, sex, and spirit. Because I really feel like that in addition to kind of traditional business development tactics, if you develop those three areas of your life and you really tap into those three areas of your life, you're going to see a tremendous, change and shift in your business in the way that you feel in your business as well. Because you can have all the traditional business tactics that you want. When you're working 60 hours a week, 70 hours a week, 80 hours a week, if you are not tapped into self, sex, and spirit, it's going to be a miserable experience. Versus for me, even though I work, really intense hours, I am in love with what I do. And I know how to balance it to the point where it's like, you know what? I might need to shut down the computer and go and get in the bath to heighten my senses and to reconnect with my body. Or I might need to go and, get in my bed and really take this nap and sleep. Or I might need to deck my desk out with all sorts of different crystals and candles and incense and oils, because that's what keeps my senses alive. That's what allows me to connect to my sensuality. Or, even with my, lovers or partners, I might need to have some really great sex because I need to be able to release and to be held, within a masculine presence, for me to kind of balance out and tap back into my feminine. So it's all of these things that I do feel are really important in the lives of women entrepreneurs and CEOs. And that's why I definitely encourage women to explore them.
That's excellent, because I think those are some of the first things that I'm guilty of that. Some of the first things to go when you are working the 70 hours as far as focus. When you are working the 70 hours a week or focused on whatever you're doing for a project or a launch, you forget about self, you forget about, well, maybe not forget about sex, but those things start to go by the wayside of, no, I have to focus. So the fact that you created a workshop to remind women to get back into considering or understanding how important those things are is fantastic.
Thank you.
Do you feel like that the women that come to the workshop feel like those things are things that have fallen by the wayside for them? Or is this the first one?
No, absolutely. Definitely, the women will come to the workshop and feel like those things are, have fallen by the wayside. And in terms of your question, is it the first one? So we ran a beta test inside of Miami, where I walked women kind of through the process. And now we're basically, touring. And so the workshop right now is set up where if there's a women's organization or a university or a company or even just like a group of girlfriends who really feel like they need to do that work, you can go to drivenworkshop.com and, kind of watch the trailer video and set up a call with my booking agent to be able to bring me to your city. But for me, the work is so important because so many women do show up, to the workshops and are like, oh man, I want, more in my business. And like, I want, to have the traditional kind of success. But I don't want to feel like crap, when I'm doing it. Like, I don't want to feel burnt out. Like, I don't want to not feel like my beautiful, powerful goddess self, when I'm showing up at my desk every day. Like, I want to feel completely in my power as a woman. And that for me is really what inspired me to do the work, because I frankly, get into really deep, intimate, personal conversations with my clients. When I'm working with my clients, it's not just simply, okay, Arielle, what's the strategy? What's the analytics, et cetera. It's like, there's stuff going on, in my life with my family, with my marriage, with my kids, with, all of these different things that are, part of my life, and it's affecting the way that I show up in my business. And so what I realized is that if I don't have those tools to be able to recommend to my clients or be able to point them in the right direction, they end up burning out. So I can have all the energy in the world, but if my clients have no energy, It's like, I'm stuck. So I'm like, it's not just about me. It's about, how do I like spread this work to as many women as possible so that we all can feel like, we completely get to be comfortable and powerful and amazing and vibrant and radiant in our womanhood. And so that's what the Driven workshops are all about.
Excellent. And you said drivenworkshop.com.
Correct.
Right? Okay, I'll make sure I have a link to it, but just so anyone who's listening who wants to go there right now. Excellent. Drivenworkshop.com. Now tell us also, I know you have retreats throughout the year that you do as well. Tell us about the one that's coming up.
Yeah, so I actually have a really exciting, I'm so excited, retreat coming up in Maui.
I'm excited that it's Maui.
Yes. So, I mean, for me, one of the most sacred experiences or trips that I've ever had was actually to the island of Kauai. And that's, another one of the Hawaiian islands. And for me, the vibration of the Hawaiian Islands is so different than anything else that I've ever experienced. And I think it's just one of those things that you don't even realize until you actually kind of get there, and then you come home and you're like, whoa, like this is so different energetically if you're tapped in. But for me, I partnered with Tiffany Janae, who is the owner of yonieggs.com. And so for anyone who doesn't know what a yoni egg is, basically it is a crystal that is shaped in the form of an egg that you insert vaginally. And you can use it to do Kegels. You can use it to simply kind of cultivate the energy of whatever the crystal is inside of your womb space, and to kind of just observe like how it affects and plays out in your life. And so she's built an entire company, around that. But, obviously,
to interview her. Sidebar.
Yeah, she's awesome. And I'll definitely put you in touch with her. But, she's obviously very tapped into kind of that, womanhood, goddess energy, manifesting from a feminine perspective, etc. And me, obviously, having played in that world too and doing work in that world, but also having the more kind of traditional business tactics and profit planning and entrepreneurship and marketing and financial planning, as well. We came together to create what is called the Money Magic Retreat. And what the retreat is really about is helping women elevate financially. And so oftentimes, we might have these goals as women, in terms of how much we want to be earning or what we want our businesses to look like or what we want our careers to look like, et cetera. But we're not necessarily getting the kind of entire picture in terms of how to actually manifest that. And so it's not as simple as sitting down with your financial planner and creating a budget. It's like, okay, one, you have to set the intention. Two, you have to really visualize and really understand what it is that you are calling in. Three, you have to place yourself in an environment that is optimal for manifesting that particular vision that it is that you have. Four, you have to actually do the work. You have to put the systems and the businesses and what we call the containers in place to catch the money that it is that you're calling in. Because so many times we ask for money, but like the universe is like, okay, like you've created what?
To
like
go where, right?
Like, how am I supposed to send this money to you? So like, it's like, all right, we got to create these containers and these different streams of income in these businesses. And then it's like, all right, well, how do we scale these businesses? How do we grow these businesses? How do we market these businesses? So the retreat gives you the opportunity to go through that entire process and to be surrounded by some really amazing, powerful women. And so we actually have like, I don't know, close to like 25 women who are already signed up to go. But I think we have like 3 or 2 spots left at the time of this recording. And so if you want to learn more about that, you can go to moneymagicretreat.com and you can see, how many spots we have left. But if you see one, I would definitely recommend dropping the deposit because we are definitely going to sell out. And we actually already sold out. But we found another house that's very, very close by, like literally like right across the street, down the street. So we just rented out the house so that we can have more women come. So those are like the 2 or 3 spots that are left.
Excellent. And when is it?
It's in February. It's right on President's Day weekend. So it's that long weekend for those of you who are 9-to-5ers. So you're already off and you just have to maybe take like one extra vacation day to actually be able to make it down.
Then it's worth it to be in Hawaii.
Right? Yeah.
I love it. So, Arielle, what would you say that your support network looks like?
I would say that my support network looks like family. My support network looks like sisters, sister friends. My support network looks like lovers. My support network looks like my clients. Really, it's just my entire community of people who are co-creating life with me. And I'm so grateful for everyone, who's played a role in my development and growth, both as a businesswoman and a CEO, but also as a human being. So, yeah, totally grateful and just happy to be here.
Let's take a quick break to thank our sponsor. So as a solopreneur, the last thing you want to worry about is getting paid and tracking people down for payment. So I was so excited to talk to Acuity Scheduling customer happiness specialist, Kristen Barber, who told me about Acuity's payment options for working with clients. This was something that I didn't know Acuity had, even though I've been working with the company for a year. So Kristen explains to us the easy ways that you can use the different payment options so you can get paid and focus on handling your business.
So depending on what your needs are, we've got a few different ways to go. We've got 5 different payment processors, and 3 of them have a lot of flexibility that kind of give you a wide range of options. So you can either have your clients pay upfront 100% of the price, end of story. You can have them pay a deposit, either a percentage or a dollar amount of what the appointment cost is. You can also, for 3 of the 5 processors, just have them enter in a valid credit card, but not charge them right off the bat. So those are really easy ways to kind of just cover your bases and make sure that you're not going to be out any money. You can set up cancellation policies, but it's just a really nice way to kind of get that extra security measure in there and to avoid those awkward conversations about whether or not Nancy owes you that money. You can just take care of it without even talking to her. You're good to go. As entrepreneurs and as business owners, obviously getting paid is super important. So if we can kind of take all of that off of your shoulders, then A, you're getting paid, which is what you deserve. And B, it kind of also adds another professional element to your site where you don't need to call, you don't need to send them anything. You're not waiting on them to get it together. You can just take care of business and it all just works really smoothly.
I love it and I can't wait to try it. Now, because you're a Support is Sexy listener, Acuity Scheduling is offering you 45 days free on any plan. So you'll also have a chance to try those payment options. Go to acuityscheduling.com/sexy to sign up for your 45 days for free. That's ACUITY scheduling.com/sexy.
We'll be keeping an eye out for you sexy ladies.
And now, back to the show. What would you say then entrepreneurship has taught you about yourself as a woman?
Oh, it's taught me that I've had, so much tenacity and resilience, and that I have a real gift for focus and discipline. And it's taught me that not everything is exactly as it seems. And so what I mean by that is that oftentimes if, I don't have something that I've been asking for just yet, that oftentimes it really is actually in the works. And I'm probably manifesting something even greater and better than originally I had envisioned or imagined. And so it's taught me to trust. It's taught me to trust in a really deep way. And it's a lesson that I continue to learn.
So in closing, if you think over your life and career and you had the chance to thank only one person whose support was critical to you personally or professionally, who would that be and what would you say?
I would say thank you to my mother, who has transitioned. She transitioned when I was 3, but we still have a very strong spiritual connection. And she continues to protect me and open doors for me and speak to me and really look out for me in ways that have definitely shaped my life. And I am so grateful for her. One, for just giving me life and bringing me into this world, but also for continuing to be my advocate and my guardian angel in the other realm.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us.
You're welcome. And thank you for having me.
Of course. Now tell us how we can support you. I know I'm going to have links to the Driven Workshop, drivenworkshop.com, and to the Maui Retreat, moneymagicretreat.com, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So tell everyone also how they can get in touch with you, follow you on social media, all that good stuff.
Absolutely. So, one, if you feel like you need some support in your business and, you want to explore and see what my agency is all about, read some client testimonials or whatever, you can go to arielleloren.com, ArielleLoren.com. You can also follow me on Instagram at Arielle Loren, or you can also find me on Facebook.
Arielle Loren on Facebook too, right?
Yep.
That's
Everything's
right.
Arielle Loren.
Excellent branding. Of course it is, because you're a marketing person.
Yes, gotta be consistent.
Exactly. Arielle, thank you so much for your time, sharing your journey with us, and also the fact that you shared, of course, from the marketing business perspective. But I think the self-care, what were the things that you mentioned? Sex, spirit, and self are so important. I think that it resonated with me, girl. So I needed to hear that.
No. Thank you. Yeah. And I hope that it definitely resonates with everyone who's listening. So thank you for sticking with us.
Absolutely. Now, before you go, what's a parting piece of advice from you to our listeners about anything?
I'd say trust the process. Definitely trust the process. Just because your life may not look exactly the way that you want it to right now doesn't mean that your vision is not already in gear. And that things aren't already shifting to start to create what it is that you truly desire. So trust the process, be gentle on yourself, but also, stay disciplined and do your work. Because if you do your work spiritually, physically, mentally, etc., you will definitely end up manifesting either what it is that you're asking for or something that's even greater.
Excellent. Arielle Loren, hold on just a second. All right, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Arielle. For more information about her agency, about the retreat, and about the workshop that she mentioned, make sure you go to supportissexypodcast.com and just search Arielle, ARIELLE. Her show notes page will pop up with all of those links and resources and ways to get in touch with her. Again, that's supportissexypodcast.com and just search Arielle. Now, thank you so much again for being here. I truly appreciate you. And whether this is your first time listening or 311, I love that you are here. I appreciate your time. I do not take it for granted. What I would love for you to do is make sure that you're subscribed to the podcast. If you love it, if you're just stopping in, it's not really for you. I get it. There are a lot of fantastic options out there. But if you like what you hear and you want to hear more from women entrepreneurs around the world, we've interviewed more than 150 women now. It is amazing. So the fact that these women come and share their stories with us, the ups, the downs, the wins, the lessons, I want to make sure that you don't miss a thing. So please, wherever you're listening, go right now, just hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Again, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. And until next time, you know what to do. Go out there and create something sexy, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.